Good morning, and that's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on a Sunday morning, live coffee talk. Uh, I'm not making any videos this weekend. I don't think I didn't make one yesterday. I don't think I'm going to make one today either. So I figured I would come out here for a few minutes this morning. Uh, just say good morning to you guys here on a Sunday. I don't know. A lot of you probably either getting ready to go or maybe already even at your weekly magic show or whatever, since it's Sunday morning. But a few of you are here, so good morning. And two, let's see, who's in here even. Let's see. Oh well, comments just one way. It's hard for me to read comments when I live stream from the phone, but I'm going to try. Machine Unit, good morning. Roll Tide 24. Quincy for announcer. LSU number one. Dennis Wilson, good morning, sir. I'm having a 4th and 11 cup of coffee. G Dog, good morning. Jack Wilson, Bulldog Chris, good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. There's not a whole lot going on. What are you up to this weekend? I had something weird happen yesterday. I had to go to a wedding yesterday. Let's see. I guess this is my second cousin. It was one of my cousin's sons. I guess that's my second cousin. I don't know. Anyway, he was getting married yesterday. The wedding was at 5:30, or it was supposed to be at 5:30. We got there about 5 o'clock or whatever. 5:15, 5:20, 5:30, 5:45, 6, 6:30. They finally sent somebody out and said, "Everybody, just go ahead." It was one of these type of things where the wedding and the reception is in the same place. They finally sent somebody out at like 6:15 and said, "The wedding is canceled, but we really want all of you to go to the reception hall and enjoy this dinner." They had it catered and the whole thing. So, they had a DJ in there playing music. Everybody went and got their dinner and sat down and was eating and that. And then they came out about 20 minutes later and said, "Okay, there is going to be a wedding. Just give us some time here." And it got to be about 7 o'clock, and they finally said, "Make my $2 worth it, Wings for Marie." And, hey, I got you. They finally came out at like 7 o'clock and said, "Okay, there's going to be a wedding. It's at 7:15." So everybody went and sat back down in the little wedding area thing. You know, 7:05, 7:10, 7:15, 7:20, 7:25. Everybody's sitting around, and I mean, by this time, like most people were, making a few jokes and cracking jokes and things like that. And anyway, it got to be about 7:30. It was real quiet in the place. Everybody's kind of looking around, like, okay, what's going to go on here? I pulled my cell phone out and played the Jeopardy theme song. That everybody started laughing. Anyway, about 7:35, they came out and they got married. So it worked out in the end, but it was kind of weird. I don't know. Anybody heard anything about Brian Harrion this weekend? Any of y'all follow me on Twitter? Then I kept catching a lot of hell about that. But have y'all heard anything about heard these Brian Harrion rumors? I don't know. People are accusing me of starting that rumor. I didn't start the Brian Harrion rumor. I heard it from about 3 or 4 other people before I ever made any posts about it. And even when I tweeted about it, I didn't say what it was or anything. I basically was just you know putting that out there to see if anybody else knew anything. So, but I don't know. Uh, a lot of smoke, but I don't know. You hear these stories sometimes, and then there's nothing to them. And then sometimes you hear these stories, and a week later, you're like, "Oh well, I guess it was true." So I mean, I really don't know. There was a video. A lot of you probably saw it, but there was a video that Zamir White put out. Was it on his Instagram or his Twitter, whatever it was? I don't remember. I don't too much follow the players on social media. Um, because I'm afraid I'm gonna say something. I'm afraid they're gonna have a bad game or something one day, and I'm gonna be scrolling through something and see one of their posts and comment something mean to them. So I don't too much follow the players. But there was a post that got spread around everywhere of all the Georgia running backs working out in the indoor practice facility 2 or 3 days ago, and Zeus was in there, and that was the main reason people was watching that video. They wanted to see Zeus, right? Well, then I think that was Friday, right? Well, then Saturday afternoon, I start getting some messages and seeing some things um, about Brian Herrien um, possibly not being on the team anymore, and which didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, this guy's never got in trouble, and Brian Herrien's been one of my favorite players since we got him. He's one of the hardest working kids on the team. I don't think that Brian Herrien has anywhere near the pure running back talent as the 3, 4, 5 running backs that he's played behind in his 3 years at UGA. But the guy goes out and gives everything he has every single time he gets in a game. And it's not like he never plays. I mean, you can say he's fourth or fifth string, and that's fine. The dude plays in almost every single game. He's reliable. And like I say, he's a hard worker. He's always done things the right way. So when I started seeing, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And I don't want to get into the reasoning here that I was told, because I don't like putting that kind of. I just don't want to say it, but it's not any. It's not getting arrested or anything like that. But um, I went back and rewatched the video that Zamir White posted on Friday night that had all the running backs working out in it, and Harrien's not in it. Now that doesn't necessarily, that's not proof of anything. And for all I know, somebody saw that video and that's how this rumor got started. I don't know, but I hope everything's okay with him. I've always liked him. I really like him. So I mean, I don't know. We just have to wait. It's the weekend. News like this usually doesn't come out on the weekend, so I don't know. Maybe we'll hear something tomorrow or Tuesday. I hope we don't hear anything and it ends up being just that, a rumor, and not true. But we'll see though. And two, Heron's our most experienced back. Yeah, I know. I mean, somebody was said something. Well, we got James Cook, and I like James Cook. But to me, and again, this is something I could be wrong on. And James Cook is still young; he's got time to develop and put on weight. But to me, James Cook is just too small to be a type of guy that you can just hand the ball to 4 or 5 times in a row in the fourth quarter, or 10 to 15 times in a game. I just don't know if he'll ever be that type of a running back in the SEC. Now, I love James Cook as like a third down back, change of pace back. I love James Cook too in a two running back situation, especially if somebody like, especially if Zeus is healthy and plays. I mean, you put Zeus and Cook in the backfield together. You can motion Cook out. I mean, really, Cook could play slot receiver. He's an excellent route runner. He's got great hands. He's fast. So I really like James Cook, but we need Brian Herrien because, I mean, right now, the only thing we know for sure, really, is that DeAndre Swift is the definite #1 back heading into the season. There's a lot of question marks about Zeus because of the two knee injuries. James Cook, to me, is a little undersized. And now Herrien, who's been sort of a career third, fourth string back. And again, I love Brian Herrien. I think he's great for what he is, but our running back we already had more question marks, I think, about the running back position heading into this coming season than we've had in the last 4, 5, 6 years probably. And if for some reason there's any truth to these rumors about Herrien, then that makes it that much more scary. But Lou Jr., good morning in there. Yeah. Did you want to say good morning to the people in there?
Good morning.
Yeah, see how Lou Jr. tells you good morning there? You want to show him your onesie or no?
Yeah.
This man, 10 years old and still wears onesies. Now, they don't have feet in them, though, but he still wears these onesie pajamas in the summertime. I can't get him out of them. What do you think the problem is? Is that a dinosaur?
Yeah.
This man's 10 years old, got on a dinosaur onesie. You think they're going to type on that?
Yes.
Yeah, he said he's probably going to type on that.
Stream
Alan V, Daniel Moore, good morning. Dubs all day. There's zero chance you're getting modded, Dubs all day. You leave 55 pointless comments in a row on these videos. I can't trust you with a mod, sir. Texas Rocks, good morning, sir. You've had an embarrassment of riches at running back. Oh, I'm not. Oh, but yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't expect anybody to feel sorry for Georgia's running back situation. That's for sure. We've been extremely lucky at the running back position in terms of how we recruited. Syracuse and Buffalo Sports, thank you for the super chat and the donation, sir. That's for Lou Jr. All right, I'll take him and get him a slushie today with that $2. Thank you, sir. Herring's supposed to be in jail or something. No legal issues with Herring. No legal issues. Uh, no, that's not it at all. He's never gotten in any trouble legally. Georgia's definitely developed one of the most dominating running programs. Oh, Mrs. Lou, come tell the people good morning, would you?
What?
Y'all want Miss Lou to come tell you good morning? Come tell these people good morning. Yeah, just yell at them. Just tell them good morning. They're asking about you.
Good morning.
Yeah, you see how she tells you good morning there? She literally just rolled over, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, just rolled over. She sleeps in on Sundays. Yeah, she's allowed to do that. Cam, what is that? Hold on, I missed that one. Let me go back. Caveman Lives. Get Junior a large slushy. All right, 10-4, boss. Will do. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ready to whoop up on Mullen in Jacksonville, Lou? Yeah, I don't understand Dan Mullen. I mean, I sort of get what he's doing here. I mean, listen, if you're in the SEC East, you got to take shots at the guys that are on top, and right now that's Georgia. So I sort of get what he's trying to do. It just seems to me, I don't know. It seems to me the types of things he's saying about Georgia and Kirby Smart and all this kind of stuff. It just seems to me that would be the type of thing to keep in house, like tell his team that for motivation or whatever. I don't know. I'm just not sure how good of an idea it is to poke this bear. If you're Dan Mullen, I mean, he's gotten absolutely humiliated by Kirby Smart the last 2 years. I mean, the total score Kirby Smart against Dan Mullen is like 78-24 over the last 2 years. It's not like he's come close and almost won. So I'm just not sure if that's the brightest idea. I mean, he tried this last year too. He did the same thing last year, Dan Mullen. He spent all off season talking about Georgia and Kirby Smart. And that didn't work out too well for him. And he's trying the same approach this year. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not sure. I'm not. Listen, let me ask Florida fans this: if Kirby Smart every time this time of year and this offseason, if every time Kirby Smart gave an interview, he was cracking jokes about Alabama and Nick Saban, Florida fans would be saying how stupid that is for Kirby Smart to do that, right? Well, that's what Dan Mullen is doing to Kirby Smart. And I'm just not sure how much sense it makes. Just going to be honest. Speaking of Alabama, though, Nick Saban hip surgery, I guess, hip replacement or something. I have a question, though. Is Nick Saban going to have his own injury tent on the sidelines this year at the Alabama games, do you think? Or is he going to be forced to share the injury tent with Tua? This is going to be an interesting storyline to keep an eye on. These are two big personalities here at Alabama, Tua Tagovailoa and Nick Saban. I'm not sure if there's room in one injury tent for both of those players. They may have to have two separate injury tents on the sideline this season at Alabama. This is a developing story. Stay tuned to Uncle Lou News, and we will keep you updated with anything we learn. Anything we learn in that. Yeah. This will be the year we beat Bama. My goal isn't necessarily to beat Bama this year. I want to win the SEC, and I get it. Chances are that it's going to be Alabama that we would face in the SEC championship game. But I don't want Georgia or Kirby Smart or the players to get so focused on beating Alabama that something else happens to screw that up. I mean, first of all, you have to get to the SEC championship game. And I think Georgia's schedule this year is probably the toughest it's been in a while. Playing at Notre Dame was tough with Jake Fromm making his first start. But we play Notre Dame again this year. And as much as I hate Notre Dame, they're going to be a good team. I don't expect Notre Dame to beat us. It's at home. But that Texas A&M game worries me late in the year. You never know what sort of injury situations are going to, pop up that late in the year. And of course, I'm not high on Auburn either, but until Kirby Smart beats an SEC West team on the road, which he's never done, it's hard to be 100% confident about the Georgia-Auburn game. And then you've got the Florida game on top of that. So there's plenty of potential landmines during the season. I don't want us to get, the team. I don't want the team to be so focused on beating Alabama because of what's happened the last 2 years that you sort of lose sight of the first 12 games. Or if we get to the SEC championship game and it's not Alabama that's there, I don't want the team to have had the mindset all year of working up to beat Alabama in Atlanta, and then we end up facing an LSU, for example, and for some reason the players don't show up or whatever because it's not Bama. I would love to beat Bama, but more importantly, I want to get to the SEC championship game and win it. If it's Bama there, then yeah, then we got to beat Bama. But if it's someone else, I just don't want to get distracted by the it's got to be Bama. We have to beat Bama. I don't want to get distracted by that. Will Marlowe, I hope Georgia sooner rather than later knows how to finish a championship game. Yeah. I mean, that's coaching. I mean, listen, Georgia has had a better team than Alabama each of the last 2 seasons, but they've got outcoached and outplayed in the second half. And that's not a knock on Alabama. Alabama obviously has been an elite team the last couple of years, but Georgia has had a team capable of beating Alabama the last 2 years, and they let it go in the second half. That's a combination, I think, of Alabama's players and staff having way more experience in those type of games, and Kirby Smart, I think, tensing up, getting a little bit too conservative. And some of our players, especially on offense, just sort of disappearing. I don't want to turn this into a blame this person or that person type of thing, but in the last 2 years against Alabama, Georgia has scored a total of 10 points in the second half. And you're just not going to win very many big games against good teams when you average 5 points per second half. I get it that we had a big halftime lead, but the game is 60 minutes long. It's not 30 minutes long. A 2017 national championship game, we scored 3 points in the second half of that game. That was it. Couldn't get a first down. You can blame the defense if you want, but when your offense is going 3 and out for an entire half, the defense is going to give up some points. It's just going to happen. And then last year, the SEC championship game, Jake Fromm throws sort of a close your eyes and throw it up in the air 60-yard bomb to Miko Hardman with 12 minutes to go in the third quarter. That was the only touchdown we scored, that was the only points we scored in the entire second half. So from 12 minutes to go in the third quarter to the end of the game, Georgia did nothing offensively against Alabama last year. Nothing. In the fourth quarter of that game, we were 1 first down away from winning it and couldn't get a first down. The offense has just completely disappeared in the second half both years against Bama. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. We can argue about if it's all coaching, if it's all the players, or if it's a combination of the two. That's fine. We're going to argue about that. But the reality is the offense has disappeared. Did the defense give up points in the second half? Yeah. But I don't think our defense gave up enough points either. Listen, you guys watched Alabama play last year, okay? They pretty much scored 40 and 50 points at will against almost everybody they played, up until the Georgia and then of course the Clemson game. To hold Alabama to 35 points is not that bad. Yeah, okay, it's not that bad. We lost 35-28. I mean, that's about the best I think Georgia could have hoped to do. Georgia defensively was not an elite defense last year. We just weren't. We were dead last in sacks. We had issues now DeAndre Baker was locked down, but we had issues on the other side. Tyson Campbell took way too long to come around. They finally rotated Stokes in, but and he played better. Our inside linebacker play honestly bordered on terrible last year. Our defense wasn't nearly as good last year as it was the year before. Now, I think this coming year, it'll be closer to what we saw in 2017. We still don't have a Roquan Smith, and that hurts. We've got some young talent at the inside linebacker position, but none of it is proven. So we'll see. I think the secondary will be a lot better. I think our secondary will be great. But, we've got to get the sack numbers up, and we got to tighten up the interior of the defense against the run. And that falls on the defensive line and the inside linebackers. And inside linebacker is kind of weird because I feel like we've recruited really well at the inside linebacker position, but it's not showing up on the field. Now, defensive line, we just haven't recruited very well, period, on the defensive line, especially defensive tackles. We just haven't recruited well at defensive tackle position. I love Kirby's recruiting. It's hard to complain when you've got the first number 1 class and then 2 number 3 classes or whatever it was, top 3 classes. But if you're going to pick a position that we've swung and missed on, it's been defensive tackle. We haven't had an elite defensive tackle at UGA in a while. You really have to think back a long time to find one. Alabama's defense fell off in the playoffs. Well, everyone knew going into last season that Alabama wasn't going to have a typical Alabama defense. They had lost every going into last year. Their entire secondary was brand new in terms of starters. They lost. I mean, they always lose elite linebackers and defensive linemen, but Alabama's defense, I think, is going to be better this year than it was last year. And if you listen, Alabama's going to be better this year than they were last year. I mean, if you don't believe that, then you're kidding yourself. So Georgia has to be that much better because Alabama gets almost their entire offense back. I mean, they get Tua back. They get all those NFL wide receivers that Alabama have were freshmen and sophomores last year. They lose that tight end, Irv Smith, but you know they're going to put somebody else in there. I don't want to hear about any offensive linemen they lost. They recruit 3 or 4 elite offensive linemen a year. You know Nick Saban's defense is going to be at least top 15 minimum, with a potential always of being number one. I mean, Alabama's going to be better this year than they were last year, period. So Georgia has to be that much better if it's Bama we end up meeting in Atlanta. What new team might enter the SEC during expansion? I don't think we'll see expansion in the SEC for at least another several years. When the current TV contracts expire, maybe. But I'm honestly under the impression I don't think the SEC will expand until or unless the Big 12 goes away. And the Big 12, a couple of years ago, the Big 12, I think, was teetering on the verge of going away. Over the last couple of years, I think they've sort of put some of that behind them. So I'm not too sure we're going to see expansion anytime soon. But in terms of what teams I would want, I say the same teams every time. Well, first of all, there's a difference between which teams I would want in the SEC and which teams I think actually would get into the SEC during expansion. Money is the main motivating factor when you talk about expansion. And one of the biggest things that drives that is new TV markets. Okay, that's why Missouri is in the SEC. Not because the SEC thought Missouri was a better fit than Florida State or whatever. The SEC wanted the Missouri TV market, right? That's why. Texas A&M, same thing. The SEC wanted a presence in Texas. So you start looking at states that don't have an SEC presence right now. I think there would be a potential down the road for a West Virginia to join the SEC. I think there would be a potential for one of the 2 Virginia teams to join the SEC. I would prefer Virginia Tech. And a North Carolina team, but let's just be real, UNC or Duke would never leave the ACC. That leaves NC State, and I'm not sure NC State would ever leave the ACC either, although if I had to pick one of those 3 out of North Carolina that I thought had the best chance of leaving the ACC, I would say NC State. But people always want to talk about South Florida, Central Florida. If the Big 12 goes away, there's 4 Big 12 teams in Texas, adding one of those teams. The chances of adding a team from a state that the SEC is already in, I think, is pretty slim, because the teams that are currently in that state are going to vote against it. In other words, if Florida State wanted to enter the SEC, Florida would vote against it. If Baylor or TCU or Texas Tech wanted to enter the SEC, Texas A&M would vote against it. I mean, that's just the way it is. I think it would be teams from a state that the SEC is not currently in. Let's see what else you guys are talking about here. New York Giants select. Listen, the problem with Daniel Jones, Giants fans are overreacting, okay? Yes, it was ridiculous to take Daniel Jones at 6th overall. Ridiculous. I think the Giants could have waited till their second pick at 15 or 16, whatever it was, and Daniel Jones still would have been there. I do not think Daniel Jones will be a bust in the NFL, though. I think Daniel Jones will be a pretty good quarterback in the NFL. I think he can be somebody like a Mitch Trubisky. Who else would I compare him to? Eli Manning when he was good. I think Daniel Jones, I mean, he's 6'6", he can make every throw. He went to Duke, so he's smart. He can read defenses, that kind of thing. I don't think he'll be a bust. And it's not like the Giants are going to have him come in and start this year anyway. I mean, they're going to let Eli play another year or two. So Daniel Jones gets a year or two to sort of sit back and learn. There's the David Cutcliffe connection between him and the Mannings, and now New York. So I don't think it was a terrible pick, and I do think Daniel Jones can have some success in the NFL. I just think it was ridiculous to take him at 6th overall. I think you could have. I think the Giants could have waited till their second pick, or they could have taken that 6th pick and traded down to 8 or 9 or something and gotten an additional second-round pick or something maybe. DeAndre Baker is the next prime time. I think DeAndre Baker will be an elite NFL corner, no doubt about it. I don't think anyone doubts that. Which group of 5 team you think will make the New Year's 6 bowl? I'm gonna go with Central Florida again. I don't see any reason not to. Their schedule is a joke. They do play Stanford. Is it Stanford they play? I think it's they play a Pac-12 team. Central Florida does. Is it Stanford? I think it's Stanford they play. So we'll see. The thing about Central Florida is typically a group of 5 team would have to go undefeated to make a New Year's 6 bowl. I sort of think Central Florida has enough clout built up because of the last 2 seasons. I could sort of see a scenario where Central Florida could lose a game during the regular season and possibly still make a New Year's 6 bowl. I don't think they would have to go undefeated. Obviously, it would help. They would be a guarantee if they did. But my money right now would be on Central Florida. I just think they're the best group of 5 team. I mean, people always want to pick Boise State, but they really haven't been that good over the last few years. I mean, they got blown out by Oklahoma State. Was it last year or the year before? Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since Boise State beat one of the big boy teams. They used to do it every couple of years. It's been a while. South Florida is good, but I don't think they're as good as Central Florida. Cincinnati is pretty good. Houston will be a team to watch, right? They've got the West Virginia coach. What's his name? Dana Holgorsen. He's at Houston now, so keep an eye on them. But they lost Ed Oliver, best player they had. So I don't know. My money would go to UCF right now. Miami guys are ripping Martell, can't pocket pass. Why he didn't play at OSU? Yeah, I've been watching some of the Miami YouTubers over the last week or so, and a lot of debate and discussion about the quarterback position. But that's not unique to Miami. Anytime you don't know who your quarterback's going to be heading into the season, you have these types of conversations and discussions in the offseason. Georgia's had them a few times over the last couple of years. Miami's having it now. Here's the thing, I had a Miami fan call in the other day, I think, or did I call into someone else's show? Anyway, I was talking with a Miami fan, and here's my thing. If it comes down to N'Kosi Perry and Tate Martell, I've seen N'Kosi Perry, and I'm not impressed. He barely completed 50% of his passes last year. I think you sort of I think you sort of know what you have with N'Kosi Perry at this point. Now, the staff is completely different. The offensive staff is completely different. The head coach is different. So it's possible the N'Kosi Perry we saw last year, we'll never see that N'Kosi Perry again. And under a new offense, he plays a lot better. I get it. That's possible. But N'Kosi Perry did not look good. Now, Tate Martell did look pretty good at Ohio State, but he only played in blowouts a couple of times in the fourth quarter. But he completed, 65 or 70% of his passes. He had a ton of rushing yards. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know which way they're going to go. And, I mean, the bad news is for Miami, of course, they don't have any time to figure it out once the season starts. They play Florida week 1. I mean, that's the toughest game of the year. So it's not one of these things where they start out with a couple of nobody teams and they can maybe, rotate quarterbacks in and out and try to figure it out. I mean, they got to have it figured out by the time they kick off game 1, because Florida's going to be ready to go for that game. So they don't have the luxury of waiting till week 2 or 3 to try to figure out which quarterback they want to go with. They got to have it decided week 1. So I don't know. We'll see which way they decide to go there, but. Regardless of what they do, look at Miami's schedule. I've said this before. I'm going to keep saying it all off season. If Miami doesn't win 10 games this year, Manny Diaz is the worst coach in the history of football, period. Look at Miami's schedule. It's a joke. Miami's schedule is a pitiful joke. Hats off to Miami for scheduling Florida. And it's not Miami's fault that their schedule is a joke, okay? They went out and scheduled a major Power 5 non-con game in Florida. That's all you can ask a team to do. So it's not a knock on Miami that their schedule is terrible. It's not Miami's fault that the rest of the teams they play in the SEC this season are absolute garbage. Garbage. The best team they play outside of Florida is probably Florida State, a 5-win team from last year. Miami's schedule is just pitiful. If they can't win 10 games with the schedule they have this year, Manny Diaz is the worst coach in the history of the Power 5, period. Period. There is not a ranked team on that schedule other than Florida. Tennessee at best wins 9 games, and I'm a Vol fan and realistic. Yeah, there's no way Tennessee wins 9 games. That's not happening. That's not happening. Sergeant AR10, good morning, sir. Georgia will sweep the SEC East for the 3rd straight year. The odds are against it just because I don't think it's ever happened. I can't think of a time. I think Florida has swept the East a couple of times, and maybe Tennessee a long time ago. Like a long time ago. But no one has ever swept the East 3 years in a row that I'm aware of and can remember. So the odds are against it. Obviously, Georgia's going to be picked to win the East again. Some people will probably pick Florida. I really can't see a legitimate argument for anyone else in the East this year to have a shot to win it. A lot of people tried to argue for South Carolina last season. They blew that. I think, I just don't think South Carolina is going to suddenly figure things out this year. They're not going to have a running game again for the 4th year in a row under Will Muschamp. Jake Bentley's still there. This guy hasn't gotten any better since the day he enrolled. They lose Deebo Samuel. They're young on defense. They got some talent on defense, but they're young. I mean, they just haven't been impressive. Tennessee, no, they're still a year or two away from any chance. Missouri with Kelly Bryant, to me, is the wild card, and here's why. Missouri reminds me of a Big 12 team in the SEC. Missouri can score a bunch of points, but they're not going to have a good defense. They've absolutely obliterated Florida the last 2 years. I mean, they've beaten Florida. I mean, they've scored 100 points on Florida over the last 2 years, and they have the type of offense that's capable of doing that. They had it with Drew Lock. The guy was throwing 40 times a game. Now they're going to have Kelly Bryant. And he's going to give you that dimension of running around, which Drew Lock didn't have. So I think Missouri will be dangerous offensively. I just don't know if Missouri is good enough defensively to keep up with the better 2 or 3 teams in the SEC East, mainly Georgia and Florida. We'll see. Although like I said, they've whooped Florida the last 2 years. I can't remember the last time Missouri beat Georgia. And in fact, I think they've only beat Georgia once in the 7 years they've been in the SEC. Georgia has pretty much owned them. Gibbs was really bad. You guys will see. Gibbs, I was real high on Gibbs when we got him, and he's one of the most athletic. He was one of the most athletic players on our team. But he had some issues that weren't football related. I'm not legal issues or academic issues or anything like that, but he got accused of being a little selfish at times, not a team player. Some sort of attitude issues that was always the talk about Deangelo Gibbs. He left the team at one point during our national title run. Deangelo Gibbs left the team in December of 2017 is how, it wasn't working out well for him in Athens. So I think the best thing that Deangelo Gibbs could have done was transfer. I don't have any hard feelings towards him, but he was never going to play in a meaningful way at UGA. And I'm sort of half kidding here, but Deangelo Gibbs probably never would have seen the field at UGA, and he's going to be one of the best players that Tennessee has. So I do think he can help Tennessee, but he's got to get right up here if he wants to reach his full potential, in my mind. Do I think UJ's defense will be better this year? Yes, I think UJ's defense this year will be closer to what we saw in 2017. We're still lacking that guy in the middle, though, Roquan Smith. Now, nobody on our team is going to have a Roquan Smith type season, but we need way better play from the linebacker position. It was just terrible last year. Tay Crowder, Atrez Patrick. I mean, these are serviceable linebackers, but they're just nowhere near elite. I mean, we need better play in the middle of our defense for sure. But the secondary, I think, will be one of the best in the SEC. I think our edge rushers will be night and day difference from what we've seen over the last year, over last year especially. The addition of Nolan Smith, you already got Adam Anderson, Brenton Cox there. My concern on defense is the inside linebacker position right now. NMD TV, thank you, sir. Brian Harrion leaving. That's a rumor that somehow that started circulating Friday, I guess it was. But I haven't. I mean, obviously, nothing official has been said or whatever. It's just a rumor at this point. Yeah, Trayvon Walker. He'll be good on the inside. I still like Jordan Davis at nose tackle. I think he played well last year as a true freshman. A lot of talent, raw though. A lot of room for growth for Jordan Davis, and size wise, he's 6'6", 350. Perfect to put in the center of that defense in the 3-4. So there's reason for optimism, but like I say all the time, I have to see these guys do it on a Saturday. Did a Florida fan start the rumor? No. The rumor started on campus at UGA. Cade Mays or Ben Cleveland. That's a tough one. I like both of those guys. I like Jamari Sawyer too. Our right guard. We have 3 5-stars fighting for one right guard spot. Ben Cleveland, Cade Mays, and Jamari Sawyer. I think Cade Mays is the best run blocker of the 3. He's an absolute bulldozer. I mean, he's just an animal. He needs some work on his finesse blocking and pass protection. Ben Cleveland, the most experienced of the group. I think you'll see both of those guys play a lot, Ben Cleveland and Cade Mays. I have a feeling Cleveland will probably get the start the year, but I don't know that. I mean, we'll see. That's that's really the only question mark on Georgia's offense is right guard, and I'm comfortable. Of all the choices we have, I'm comfortable no matter who we go with. I mean, there's some questions about wide receiver too, and who's gonna. Holloman is obvious. I think D-Rob will be the slot. There's some questions about that third wide receiver spot too. Hopefully some of the young guys show up ready to go, because the spring game didn't look too promising in terms of wide receivers. Uncle Lou have a serious question concerning Lou Jr. Time comes with Lou Jr. tryout for Atlanta United. I have no idea. I don't know. Thoughts on Kirby's subtle troll recently? Stepping on the Florida hat or towel or whatever it was. Kirby's not typically one to do that kind of thing in the offseason. He likes to let the play on the field speak for itself, but Dan Mullen just won't shut his cake hole. So normally I don't like that kind of thing, like giving the other team bulletin board material type of thing, but Dan Mullen just doesn't know when to shut the hell up. I mean, you would think 2 beatings in a row would be enough to zip this guy's mouth, but apparently he's a glutton for punishment. So it didn't bother me. Lou, our state universities might as well be state pens. Florida. McCoy not on UJ roster either at running back. Yeah, start that rumor. Is Kirby a Bible thumper? I wouldn't consider him a Bible thumper. No. Mr. Ninja, I'll shove that hat up, yo. Well, no, you won't. All you'll do is type about it. 4 offensive linemen going in the first 2 rounds of draft next year. I think Georgia has 7 NFL offensive linemen on the team right now. This is the best offensive line I've ever seen at Georgia, period. Georgia will have the best offensive line in the SEC, and I think they'll have the best offensive line in America. It's unbelievable. Listen, I know people hate it when I do this or whatever, but I mean, I'm sorry, but I was right. Listen, Elijah Holyfield is not a great running back, okay? He had 1,000 yards rushing on about 8 carries a game, 9, 10 carries a game. Georgia's offensive line is unbelievable. Michael Rector, good morning, sir. I think Tennessee versus Mississippi State is an interesting cross-division matchup this year. Yeah, I think Tennessee is a team that has been down here and is hoping to get up here. Mississippi State's a team that sort of had some good years and looks like they may be on a downward trajectory. We'll see. So, yeah, that will be an interesting game. And that's one of those games that could determine whether or not either of those teams really makes a bowl game, because you look at Mississippi State, you can't imagine them beating Bama, LSU, or Texas A&M in my mind. I think that's 3 automatic losses for them right there. So they have to win. If you're Mississippi State, you have to win your 2 East games, I think. And for Tennessee, they play Alabama, Georgia, Florida. They're not winning any of those. They need to win the Mississippi State game. It could, the Mississippi State game and the Vanderbilt game, I think, are must-win games for Tennessee if they want to get to 6 or maybe 7 wins. LSU is not an automatic loss at home. Yes, it is. Mississippi State is not beating LSU this year. It's not happening. The SEC least. Well, you say the SEC least, but the SEC East had a winning record against the SEC West last year. So I don't, maybe try, if you don't want to watch football, which you obviously don't, at least look at scores or whatever, from week to week, so that you don't look such a fool in the comments section. Dan Mullen is just bored. I don't see why. You'd think he'd be working with his quarterbacks. You would think that would be enough to keep him busy, but apparently it's not. So, LSU will beat Florida this season. That's going to be a hell of a game. It's in LSU this year. It was a hell of a game last year. Florida won at home. They got to play them at LSU this year. LSU and Florida, both really good teams last year. I think both are going to be pretty good teams this year, too. That will be a really, really good game. Guantanamo Bay better than Jake Fromm. Literally no one believes that, but okay. I'm no Jake Fromm homer. You guys know that. He's light years ahead of Jarrett Garantano. Come on. Yeah, Texas Rock says if the college head coach is bored, he needs a different line. Well, I agree. It's a 365-day-a-year job. There's really no excuse to ever be bored. Do you think any lower-level team in Georgia, like Kennesaw State, Georgia State, etc., will never enter the SEC? No, I don't. Why do Tennessee fans hype up their players so much? Well, fan is short for fanatic, and Tennessee fans are starved to death for a decent product on the field. So every offseason, right now, every single team and every single fan base is undefeated and has hope. Now, for the majority of those teams and fan bases, that hope is quickly going to fade once the calendar rolls over to September. And Uncle Lou will be here every Sunday morning to let you know which teams those are when their season ends. But this is the off season. Everybody beats everyone's undefeated. So, I get it. Dan Mullen has Spurrier's mouth with Dan Mullen's trophy case. Chances Miami beats Florida week 0. I do think there's a chance Miami wins that game. Obviously, Florida's the better team. Obviously, Florida will be a heavy favorite, I think. I can't remember what the line is on that game, but got to be double digits, I would think. Florida, I think, is expected to win that game by a couple of touchdowns. They were a better team than Miami last year. They have an experienced head coach. Miami has a first-year head coach making his first ever, his first game as head coach against a pretty good Florida team. But Florida's goal is not to beat Miami. Florida wants to win that game, but Florida has bigger goals than that. Miami's not winning the ACC or making a playoff that's the biggest game on Miami's schedule. There is no other ranked team on the schedule. I know Florida State is big every year, but Florida State's terrible. They're not ranked. This is a huge game for. Miami's gonna throw everything they have at this game, and Florida, we'll sort of do the same. I mean, I think Florida wins the game, but you asking me, is there a chance? Yeah, I think there's a chance. Virginia might be ranked. You could be right, maybe. By that point in the year, I don't know, though. We'll see. There's no update on Herring. On Friday, a rumor started spreading on campus that he may not be on the team anymore. And about 3 or 4 people said something to me about it. I don't know anything. I haven't heard anything. I sort of asked a question about it on Twitter, like I just put Brian Herring question mark SMH or something. And it pissed a lot of people off. I don't know why people get so damn mad, but they do. So, I mean, I hope it's nothing. We need Brian Herring. He's been one of my favorite players since he got there. He's had to work for every single carry he's ever gotten at UGA because talent-wise, he's been about the 4th or 5th most talented running back on the team every single year that he's been there. But he works so hard. He's reliable. He's always done things the right way. And he's earned playing time and carries in almost every single game since he arrived at UGA. I really like Brian Herring, and so I hope this is just a situation of smoke but no fire. But we'll see. Intros are too long. Somebody said, "You guys know I'm going to see Tool on Tuesday, in Birmingham." I'm excited. They play today, Tool does. First concert of the year. And I wanted to go to the one today. And that's been my plan all along, was to go see him today in Jacksonville. But about a month ago, Tool is doing a huge tour in Europe, starting in about the middle of the summer through the end of the year. No U.S. tour this year. But when it started to look like their new album was going to come out this year, they decided to do 5 festivals this year, outdoor concerts. And so I was going to go to the first one in Jacksonville. Well, the excitement and anticipation and everything for the new album has gotten so big that Tool has added 5 arena shows to go along with those 5 festival shows. And the first of those 5 arena shows is Tuesday night in Birmingham, and I'm going to go to that one. So it actually worked out good because I think concerts are better indoors than they are outdoors. Outdoors might be a better environment and atmosphere and stuff like that because it's sort of the whole festival vibe that you get, and you get to see a bunch of bands. But in terms of the sound quality of the music and even like the light shows and stuff like that, I think a concert is better seen indoors. So I'm excited. That's Tuesday night. So I won't have the live show this Tuesday night. I'll be in Birmingham at the Tool concert, but I'm so excited. But somebody left a comment the other day that said, record the entire Tool concert on Tuesday and then make that your intro for the next video. So the intro would be like an hour and a half or 2 hour long Tool concert. How much of a difference do you think Florida having their best cornerbacks back for the Georgia game next season? They were injured last season. Everyone, listen, we play Florida the end of October. Every team has injuries in the end of October. So, I mean, that's no excuse. You're in the state of Florida. You're constantly bragging about your recruiting classes. So, I mean, we beat you 2 years ago with a backup quarterback, Jake Fromm. I mean, we lost our starting quarterback week 1, Easton. So, we beat you 42-7 with a backup quarterback. Injuries happen. There's a reason you have 85 scholarships and not 22. I don't buy the injury excuse. Can an injury affect the team's record? Yes, it can. But I don't, I'm not going to take pity on a team because they had an injury. I feel terrible for the kids who get injured. I don't ever want anybody to get injured. But you got 85 scholarships, same as everybody else. Everybody gets it. All teams have injuries. All teams have kids playing hurt. Put somebody else in there. If the guy's no good, why'd you recruit him and sign him? Okay, so just put him in and play, and don't use the injury thing as an excuse. You sound silly. Playoff prediction: Clemson, Bama, Oklahoma, Washington. Okay. When Miami loses to Florida, will their season be over? No. If anyone, no. Now, if Florida loses to Miami, Florida's season will be over. Yes, but no, Miami's season will not be over if they lose to Florida. I won't put them in the your season is over video on Sunday if they lose to Miami. They're expected to lose. It's not an ACC game. Nobody expects Miami to make the playoffs this year, so losing a non-con game won't affect Miami's overall season in terms of what people expect them to do. The season over thing is sort of based on my expectations for a team, or what I think a team's fan base thinks their team will do. What will be the point spread for Tennessee versus Mississippi State? Where's the game at? I think that's a pretty even game. If the game is played in Tennessee, I would make Tennessee a 2 or 3 point favorite. If it's in Mississippi State, maybe even or a point or two for Mississippi State. But I expect Tennessee to win that game this year, to be honest. I wanted to go to Rockville. Yeah, that's been my plan all along. But when they added the indoor shows, I decided to go to that instead. So I'm going to see them Tuesday night in Birmingham. Auburn lost to Tennessee last year. Yeah, that was one of the 3 most embarrassing losses of the year last year. That was pitiful. Oh, you've been at Rockville all weekend. Who's been the best show so far? I like Korn, too. They played on Friday, didn't they? Who played yesterday? Rob Zombie, the headliner? I don't know. Who's been your favorite so far? You say you've been there all weekend. Fromm or Daniel Jones better NFL prospect? I think Fromm and Daniel Jones are a lot alike, but Daniel Jones is 6 inches taller, so I would say Daniel Jones. People are really high on Jake Fromm. And listen, once he leaves Georgia and goes to the NFL, I wish him nothing but the best. I just have serious doubts about Fromm in the NFL. I don't think he has elite arm strength, and I don't think he's tall enough. And people are going to say, oh, well, Russell Wilson can run around. Jake Fromm had negative 30 yards rushing last year. He can't escape pressure in the pocket. He can't roll out. At least he hasn't. And maybe he learned something this offseason. We see something different this year. But as of right now, Jake Fromm is a pocket passer with no mobility who's 6'1". So I just, and in my mind, average arm strength. So I just have some question marks about Fromm on the next level. But listen, I say this all the time. Georgia's a college team. I don't care what these people do in the NFL. Now, I want them to succeed and become millionaires and be great in the NFL. And if they do that, fine. But it doesn't affect me one way or the other what they do in the NFL. I want Georgia to win games. So I don't know. Depending on who you ask, Jake Fromm is somewhere between 6'1" and 6'3". I think he's probably closer to 6'1", maybe 6'2". Daniel Jones, I think, is 6'6". Do I think New England will repeat? It's hard to repeat, even for Alabama and New England. It's hard to repeat. So, if I could bet on New England or anyone else, I would bet on anyone else. I don't know. Thoughts on the Falcons draft? The Falcons don't ever draft that well, in my opinion. Fromm is 5'11". No, he's a little taller than that. Would I rather have a coach that's an elite recruiter and an average coach, or an elite coach and an average recruiter? I'd rather have an elite recruiter. Yeah, Fromm is over 6 feet. He's not 5'11". He's 6'1" or 6'2". I would put money on it. College football or NFL? I don't know who you're asking that question to, or if you're lost or not sure where you are here, but college football. What do Georgia fans think about LSU getting all these top 2020 kids? LSU has great recruiting classes every single year. Recruiting has never been LSU's problem. I don't think anyone is surprised that LSU is putting together a good 2020 recruiting class. They always have great recruiting classes. Texas Rocks is an idiot. He says height doesn't matter because Kyler Murray is short. Kyler Murray also ran for, 1,000 yards last year? Again, you're not... I don't understand if you people don't watch football. I really don't understand. Anybody that says height... comparing Jake Fromm to Kyler Murray is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Nick Bro says Fromm pissed me off the most when we played LSU. He was absolutely terrible in that. It's one of the worst games I've ever seen Fromm play. It was abysmal. It was just absolutely pitiful the way he played against LSU. He's played that bad in other games that we won, and so people don't like to talk about it. But if you look at his freshman year, he played terrible against Notre Dame. He played terrible against Tennessee. But we won those games. And then, of course, he played bad against Auburn, and we lost. So people point to that. And he's played good in the first half both years against Alabama. I mean, hell, he had 300 yards passing against Alabama last year. So those are good numbers overall. But when you break it down, he disappeared in the second half again. And a lot of people disappeared in the second half, including the coaches. But you have to play complete games to beat teams like Alabama. I mean, go back and look at the Rose Bowl, the playoff game against Oklahoma. If we only played one half, if we didn't show up in the second half of that game, we would have won that. I mean, you got to play a complete game against elite teams. Uncle Lou, need a new rap video. Yeah, I might. A lot of people have asked me about. I might try to put something together. I sort of had an idea and have been working on something for, it's an old song. It's a rap song. I don't even remember who sings it anymore. Riding Dirty is his name. Remember, they see me rolling, they hating, trolling, and trying to catch me riding dirty. I had a little spin-off on that I was going to do, where it's like they see me streaming, they trolling. They type in, anyway, something like that. So I had an idea of something like that. So I don't know. Chameleonaire, yeah, that's who it is. They see me streaming, they type in, they troll in. So anyway, I'll see if I can put something together. What is the best lower level team in Georgia? Kennesaw State right now. Georgia Tech a threat in recruiting now they have an updated offense. Yes, they are. I mean, they're not going to out-recruit Georgia or anything like that, but I think they'll get a player or two a year, at least, out of the state of Georgia that previously they had no chance of getting because of the kind of offense they ran. Yeah, Kennesaw State is elite. Georgia Southern's not a better program right now than Kennesaw State. Valdosta State's pretty good too. I think they might have won the title, Division II or something last year. I remember Nesbitt, Josh Nesbitt, Georgia Tech quarterback. Yeah, I remember him. Georgia Southern still runs the triple option. Yeah, a lot of people run that at the lower level schools because they can't. All the elite offensive guys that run pro style in high school aren't going to go to Georgia Southern. They're going to bigger programs. So you see a lot of these lower level teams will run that style of offense. You see it a lot more on the lower level than you do in the Power 5. Hey, I'm going to end this, guys, right at... Oh, I didn't land, knock my phone over. I'm going to end the stream, though. That's right at an hour. can't believe there's over 100 people in here for just a stream I decided to do out of the blue. So I appreciate you guys watching some good football talk this morning. I'll have a video uploaded tomorrow for you guys, and Tuesday too. But just remember, no live show this Tuesday night because I will be in Birmingham. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. How do I turn this off now? I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you again real soon.